The little girl who made a millionaire CEO cry. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime on the 47th floor of Manhattan's most prestigious corporate tower. What stepped out wasn't another suit-clad executive or nervous intern, but a 7-year-old girl in a faded yellow dress, clutching a crumpled piece of paper and dragging a worn backpack behind her. The marble floors echoed with the sound of her small sneakers as she walked purposefully toward the mahogany. Doors marked Richard Sterling, CEO. Richard Sterling had built his empire from nothing. At 42, he commanded a multinational corporation worth billions, had been featured on the cover of Fortune magazine 3 times, and owned homes in 7 countries, but success had come at a price. His marriage had crumbled under the weight of his ambition. His relationship with his own daughter had withered to awkward monthly visits, and somewhere along the way, he had forgotten what it felt like to truly care about anything beyond profit margins and market share. That Tuesday morning started like any other. Richard sat behind his imposing desk, reviewing quarterly reports, when his assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Sterling, there's a situation. A little girl somehow got past security, and she's asking to see you. She says it's about a job." Richard barely looked up from his papers. "Call security. Have her removed immediately." "Sir, she's very persistent. She says she has a resume and won't leave until you see it." Something in his assistant's voice made Richard pause. Perhaps it was the hint of amusement, or maybe the fact that in all his years of ruthless business dealings, no one had ever caught him off guard quite like this. "Fine, send her in. But make it quick." The door opened and in walked the little girl he'd glimpsed on the security monitor. She had dark curls that bounced with each determined step, bright brown eyes that sparkled with an intelligence far beyond her years, and dirt smudges on her dress that spoke of a long journey to reach his office. What struck him most was her posture, shoulders back, chin up, walking with the confidence of someone who belonged in boardrooms and corner offices. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "My name is Emma Rodriguez, and I'd like to apply for a position at your company." Richard leaned back in his leather chair, studying this unexpected visitor. "And how old are you, Miss Rodriguez?" 7 3/4, she replied seriously. "But age is just a number when you have the right qualifications." Despite himself, Richard felt a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "I see, and what qualifications might those be?" Emma reached into her backpack and pulled out a carefully folded piece of paper. She smoothed it out on his desk with the reverence one might show a sacred document. The resume was written in crayon on construction paper, decorated with hand-drawn flowers and stars. But as Richard read it, his amusement began to fade, replaced by something deeper. "Emma Rodriguez, age 734, he read aloud. "Experience taking care of Mama when she's sick, making dinner for my little brother Carlos when Mama works late, reading bedtime stories, selling lemonade to help pay for medicine." His voice caught slightly as he continued reading. "Skills. Very good at making people smile. Can count to 1,000 in English and Spanish. Know how to make Carlos stop crying. Expert at finding things that are lost." Richard looked up to find Emma watching him intently. "This is quite impressive, Miss Rodriguez, but I have to ask, why do you want to work here?" Emma's confident facade wavered for just a moment, and Richard caught a glimpse of the scared little girl beneath the brave exterior. "My mama is very sick," she said softly. "The doctors say she needs an operation, but we don't have enough money. I heard that you're the richest man in the city, and I thought maybe you could help us." Richard felt his chest tighten. He'd dealt with countless business proposals, merger negotiations, and financial crises, but nothing had prepared him for the raw honesty in this child's eyes. "Emma, I appreciate your initiative, but this isn't how business works. You can't just walk into someone's office and ask for money." "I'm not asking for money," Emma said quickly. "I want to earn it. I can work very hard. I'm good at organizing things. I organize all of Carlos's toys. I can answer phones. I answer our phone at home all the time. And I'm very good at making people happy when they're sad." Richard stood up and walked to his floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing out at the city below. Somewhere down there were thousands of people struggling just to survive while he sat in his tower, counting his billions. When had he become so disconnected from the real world? Emma, even if I could hire you, which I can't because of child labor laws, the kind of money your mother needs for surgery, it would take you decades to earn. I know, Emma said quietly, but I have to try. Mama always says that if you don't try, you've already failed. Richard turned back to face her. Tell me about your mother. Emma's face lit up like sunshine breaking through storm clouds. Her name is Maria. She's the best mama in the whole world. She works 3 jobs, cleaning offices at night, watching Mrs. Peterson's baby during the day, and making the most beautiful dresses for people to wear to fancy parties. She sings to me and Carlos every night, even when she's so tired she can barely stand up. She never complains, not even when she's in pain. And your father? Emma's expression darkened. He left when Carlos was a baby. Mama says he wasn't as strong enough for our family, but we're strong enough without him. Richard felt something crack open inside his chest. This little girl who should have been playing with dolls and worrying about nothing more serious than playground politics was carrying the weight of her family's survival on her 7-year-old shoulders. And she was doing it with more grace and dignity than most adults could muster. Emma, what would you say if I told you I couldn't help you? She was quiet for a long moment and Richard could see her fighting back tears. I would say thank you for listening to me, Mr. Sterling. Most grown-ups don't listen to kids. Then I would go to the next office and try again. And if no one helps, then I'll find another way, she said with fierce determination. I'll sell more lemonade. I'll ask everyone in our neighborhood. I'll figure it out. Because that's what you do when you love someone. You don't give up. Richard felt his eyes burning. When was the last time he'd heard such pure, unconditional love? When was the last time he'd felt it himself? He thought about his own daughter, Sarah, whom he saw every other weekend according to their custody agreement. Did she know he loved her? Did she feel supported and protected the way Emma was supporting and protecting her family? He walked back to his desk and sat down, picking up Emma's resume again. At the bottom, in careful block letters, she had written, References. Carlos Rodriguez, my little brother. He will tell you I am the best big sister ever. Mrs. Chen from apartment 2B. She says I am very helpful. God. He sees everything I do. That last reference broke something loose inside Richard's carefully constructed emotional walls. He looked at Emma, really looked at her, and saw himself as she must see him. Not as a ruthless businessman or a corporate titan, but simply as another person who might be able to help her save the most important person in her world. Emma, he said softly, can I ask you one more question? She nodded eagerly. If you had all the money in the world, what would you do with it? Without hesitation, she answered, First, I'd pay for Mama's surgery. Then I'd buy us a house with a yard so Carlos can have a dog like he's always wanted. Then I'd buy Mama a car so she doesn't have to take 3 buses to work. And then, she paused, thinking carefully, then I'd help other kids whose mamas are sick too because everyone deserves to have their mama healthy and happy. Richard closed his eyes and took a shaky breath. In all his years of success, he'd never met anyone with a clearer vision of what truly mattered. This little girl understood something that had taken him decades to forget. That money was just a tool, and the only thing that gave it meaning was how you used it to help the people you loved. He opened his eyes and looked at Emma's expectant face. Miss Rodriguez, I'm afraid I can't offer you a job. Emma's shoulders sagged, but she lifted her chin bravely. I understand, Mr. Sterling. Thank you for your time. However, Richard continued, and Emma's eyes widened with hope, I would like to make you an offer. I have a foundation, the Sterling Foundation, that helps families facing medical crises. I think your mother would be an excellent candidate for our assistance program. Emma's composure finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, Really? You'll help Mama? Yes, Emma. We'll help your mama, but I have a condition. She wiped her nose with the back of her hand. What kind of condition? I want you to accept a position as my special advisor on what really matters. It's an unpaid position, of course, but it comes with some important responsibilities. You'll need to visit me once a month and remind me about the things that are truly important in life. Can you handle that? Emma launched herself around the desk and threw her arms around Richard's neck. Thank you, thank you, thank you, she sobbed into his shoulder. I'll be the best advisor ever, I promise. As Richard held this brave little girl, he felt tears streaming down his own face for the first time in years. In her simple, honest words about not giving up on the people you love, Emma had shown him everything he'd lost in his climb to the top. She'd reminded him that success without heart was just an expensive form of emptiness. 3 months later, Maria Rodriguez had her surgery, a complete success. The Sterling Foundation covered all medical expenses and provided additional support to help the family stabilize financially. Richard personally ensured that Maria's dressmaking business received the capital and connections it needed to flourish. But the most profound change was in Richard himself. He began volunteering at children's hospitals, reading stories to young patients. He rekindled his relationship with his own daughter Sarah, learning to listen to her with the same attention he'd given Emma that day. He restructured his company's priorities, implementing programs that supported employee families facing crises. Emma kept her promise too. Every month she visited Richard's office, sometimes bringing Carlos along. She'd update him on her family, her school, and her dreams for the future. But more importantly, she'd ask him the questions that kept him grounded. Are you remembering to hug Sarah? Did you help anyone this week? Are you being kind to yourself too? Years later, when business magazines asked Richard Sterling about the turning point that transformed him from a ruthless corporate machine into one of the country's most philanthropic leaders, he always gave the same answer. Sometimes the most profound wisdom comes from the smallest voices. A 7-year-old girl taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives touched, families helped, and love shared. And somewhere in a modest but happy home across the city, Emma Rodriguez, now studying to become a doctor so she could help other sick mothers, smiled whenever she saw his name in the news, knowing that sometimes all it takes is one brave moment and one honest sentence to change the world. I would say thank you for listening to me, Mr. Sterling. Most grown-ups don't listen to kids. In a world that often feels cold and disconnected, Emma's story reminds us that courage has no age limit, love has no boundaries, and sometimes the smallest act of faith can move the biggest mountains. Her 7-year-old heart saw past the barriers that adults create and straight to the humanity that connects us all. We all have the power to be someone's Emma, to show up with determination, speak with honesty, and never give up on the people we love. And we all have the capacity to be someone's Richard, to listen with our hearts, act with compassion, and remember that our greatest successes are measured not by what we accumulate, but by what we give away. What did you think of Emma's incredible story? Have you ever witnessed a moment where someone's simple honesty changed everything? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. I read every single one and love hearing from you. If this story touched your heart and reminded you of what truly matters, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear Emma's message today. Your support means the world to me and helps these inspiring stories reach more people who need them. Don't forget to subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more powerful stories about courage, compassion, and the extraordinary things that happen when we choose love over fear. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a story that could change your perspective on life. Until next time, remember, you're never too small to make a big difference, and it's never too late to listen with your heart.